Okay. So I believe we are live here. For those I have not met before, welcome to Spotlight Thursday. My name is Lori, and I am a business success coach, and I work with entrepreneurs and aspiring digital nomads to build profitable and scalable online businesses. And today I am joined by Richard. Oh my gosh. I am joined by Richard Lowe. And I put your name in here wrong. I'm so sorry, Richard. Who is a professional ghostwriter, cybersecurity expert, and photographer. He has written 60 books under his name, ghostwritten over 40, and taken over 1 million photographs. Welcome, Richard. Can you just start, I guess, by telling us a little bit about yourself after your last name here?
Well, as she said, I'm Richard Lowe, and I'm a professional ghostwriter, which means that I write books for other people, and my name generally isn't on them. In fact, my name hasn't been on any of the 43, although one's coming up that it might be, or that it will be, so that's kind of cool. People pay me actually significant amounts of money to write books for them. I used to be a photographer up until a few years ago, and took over 1 million pictures, and I was the director of technical services and computer operations for Trader Joe's for 20 years. So
it sounds like you had a very long, successful career, right? So
yes.
What led you into this path? Can you just tell us a little story of that transition? Just as I think, I already told you, but a lot of our audience is either in process or looking to make a transition from their career, into something new. So it's very inspirational to hear everybody else's story.
Well, I was working at Trader Joe's. I'd been there for 20 years. I was almost at my 20-year anniversary, and I realized that it was at pretty much a dead end career-wise. Trader Joe's has a very thin management layer, and I was middle management, and I wasn't going to be promoted. I pretty much topped out in money, and it was good money. It was very good money, but and I was running into barriers all the time. They had a way of doing things that I was finding frustrating. It wasn't necessarily that they were wrong. It just wasn't. I was the computer guy in charge of the computers, and they would tell me things that made no sense from a computer guy's point of view. And I was just getting tired of the rat race. I'd been working for somebody else for 33 years. So one day I decided it's time to make the leap. I want to be my own. I want to do the entrepreneur thing. I've got some money saved up I can go a few years without having to worry about the income. And believe me, I had to use all of that. And jumped off the cliff and became an entrepreneur. Moved from California to Florida because I wanted to get away from California. Also, I was tired of that state, and for reasons probably best not to go into here, and settled down in Florida. I thought about photography. I'd been a photographer for about 8 years before that, but it's hard to make money as a photographer because everybody has a camera now, and wedding photographers should, for example, charge between $5,000 and $10,000 to photograph your wedding, but most people want to get it for in the hundreds, and you can't make a living that way. So It just wasn't practical for me to go in that direction. So then I became an entrepreneur, and it was like, oh boy, what do I do now? I wasn't actually sure what I was going to do. I didn't even have a plan. It was kind of one of those spur of the moment, I'm out of here kind of things. Gave notice, of course, but I'm going to start my own business. I'm done. And okay, now I should have thought this through better. What business am I starting? And managed to pull it off. I experimented with a lot of different businesses. I sold on eBay, so I made about $35,000 selling, but decided that eBay, it's too much manual labor. So I didn't want to do that. Did the affiliate marketing thing. That's where you sell other people's products and you get a commission. The affiliate marketers that I was running into were, how shall I put this politely, scum. So I decided not to I didn't want to be scum, so I didn't go in there. Some of them were nice, and some of them were good, but most of them the ones I was running into anyway just didn't
Yeah.
impress me ethically.
Yeah,
Uh,
I experienced that myself.
right, right, and I think ethics are very important, especially in your own business, because
Agreed.
word gets around. I so then I ran into I started writing, and I started writing my own novel to fill up the hours, and I was going to writing critique groups. That's where writers sit around in a circle and they critique each other's work, or on tables usually. And somebody critiqued my work and said, "This is pretty good. You want to come work for me?" And I said, "Sure. What are you?" "Well, I'm a ghostwriter, and I have a company and I hire ghostwriters." I thought, okay, I'm not really sure what a ghostwriter is, but sure, why not? Uh, so he hired me and paid me $1,000 to write a book. It was a book, a memoir about an Afghan politician. This was before the Soviets invaded, so it was way before the U.S. invaded
Okay.
Afghanistan. This was in the 70s. That's when the guy was there. Uh,
Okay.
he was a politician. He did all the roads in Afghanistan, and he has a fascinating story, which is incredible. But he never finished the book. He had to go back to Afghanistan and do some things, and I never heard from him again. Then I did two more books, and then realized at $1,000 a book, I am making about $2 an hour by my calculations. And I approached my boss and I explained this to him, and he said, "Well, that's what I'm going to pay. Maybe I'll pay you a little bit more, a couple hundred more." And it's like, that ain't going to do it. He said, "Well, you're just beginning and you need to work for me, and you're not good enough to go out there on your own." I said, "Well, I don't believe that." Um, yeah, right. And
Of course.
and then jumped ship from there. I was only there for a few months. The next day, I had a $10,000 contract, and the day after that, a $15,000 contract. Both in the computer area, because I have computer experience, which is why
Okay.
I got the contracts, because I had the experience behind me to be able to pull in that kind of stuff. And it was like, whoa, I can do this. Now I need to write these books. So I wrote books. I was very successful. I wrote those two books, and after that, I started my ghostwriting career. And since that point, that was in 2014, I've written 43 ghostwritten books, 60 books of my own,
Wow.
and numerous other lots of blogs, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blogs and articles and things. It's a lot.
That is a lot. So it's a really amazing story. And for those that are watching, well, if you're watching whether live or in the replay, please just say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hi. But if you have questions, feel free. But for those that are watching, I know a lot of them are, in that place where they are kind of at that same level where people are telling them you can't do this, or they're feeling like they can't do this, and feeling, some of that fear. Is that something that you yourself, dealt with when you were starting out? Because it's pretty awesome that you went from 2 cents a word to, $10,000-$15,000 contracts. But what was that like for you?
It was, well, I decided after that ghostwriting job, that short one, that I was worth what I was worth what I was asking for. What I asked for initially was 50 cents a word. I'm up to $1 a word now. That's what I typically charge.
Okay.
And I decided I was worth it. So that was the first thing: is am I worth it? Yes, I am. And can I do quality work? Yes. Yes, I'm sure I can, and I also realized that it takes just as long to find $100 clients as it does $10,000 clients. It's the effort that you put in to find a low-end client. It's very high. Unless you're doing affiliate marketing and you got a mailing list and all that kind of stuff, which is a whole different story. But if you're going out there and marketing to direct to people to find business, it takes just as much work to find the small ones as the big ones. So why on earth are you concentrating on small ones? So that's what the kind of the thought processes that I went through. And I just I went out there and started getting them. And yeah, there were some embarrassing failures, and there were some massive successes, and it overall, I think survival is very simple. Survival is you make more smart decisions than dumb decisions, so you're surviving.
That's
And
a
I made more
good
smart
theory.
decisions than dumb decisions. And because we all make dumb decisions and we all make smart decisions.
Yep.
So I managed to survive, and now I'm actually making more money than I was making when I was at Trader Joe's as the director
Wow.
of, six figures. Um,
Wow.
and that, and I have plenty of free time, and I take weekends off, and I'm not under the extreme stress because I manage my own schedule. I know my limits, and I know what schedules I want, and I know what kind of customers I want. This is an important thing. I decided real early, after a few miserable customers, that I wanted to get customers who were good to work with,
Yeah.
who were reasonable, who could talk, who didn't build up resentment, who were communicators. And those are the kind of, that's actually part of my in marketing, I guess you call it an avatar. You create a picture of your customer, your ideal customer. It's an exercise you sometimes go through when you do marketing. Who is your
Mhm.
customer? You build an avatar. And what gender are they? What or both, or all 50,000 of them nowadays? Um, what
Yeah.
what what do they look for? How do they operate, etc. So I built up this avatar, and an important part of it is that they're reasonable, sane customers. Because I'd run into some insane customers, and so far, that's what I got. And
Okay.
I reject actually more contracts than I take because of that. Because customers that just basically are not going to work out well, and some of them are just
Mhm.
bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that is a true sign of success, because I know at the beginning, so many people, um, it's that desperation of like, if I don't take this client, what if another one doesn't come along? And, that fear of failing.
Yep, yep. In fact, I just had a client earlier this year, potential client, who came to me. He'd come to me a couple years before and said he wanted to write a book, but he had to work some things out. And those, they say that all the time, so I figured I'd never hear from him again. But in January, he said he's going to start in June. So in June, he calls up and we talk, and he wants to write not one book but 9 books.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, let's talk rates. And he says, I don't need to talk rates. You just tell me your rate and I'll pay it. And we're talking like $150,000 worth of work there, maybe more.
Yeah.
And then I started getting these weird emails about how that just, I won't go into any details, but it just triggered this guy is not rational alarm buttons, And I had to go through that thought process. Do I take $150,000, $200,000 worth of business that will keep me busy for a couple years, but have to work with this guy
Mm.
who's basically, you know,
You can
miserable,
say it. Yeah.
miserable person to work for. I mean,
Mhm.
I wasn't even working for him yet. We didn't even have a contract, and I already wanted to take him out back and hit him with a 2x4, much less working for him. And so I had turned it down, and that was
Good for you.
tough. That was tough. And I've turned down about 6 jobs this year. And I just because they weren't going to work out.
Yeah.
And
But that must be a good feeling, knowing that you are in a position where you can turn down work. Was it always that easy for you to be in that position, to be able to turn away work, or have you worked with some questionable people?
I've worked with some questionable people. The biggest problem that I've run into with them is they don't tell me when they're not satisfied with what they get. So we keep going forward. So I charge by the month. So let's say it's a $10,000 project that's going to take 10 months. They get paid. They charge $1,000 a month, as
Okay,
an example. Actually, it's different because they get a down payment and then whatever's left over those 10 months.
got it.
So we get halfway into the project, and then I find out they were dissatisfied at the beginning. And it's like, okay, well, we've been talking and talking, and we've had conversations every week, 100, dozens of conversations, maybe even 100 conversations. And I've written all this stuff, and you've looked it over in theory. And now you're telling me you're not happy with it. And that's a tough thing to handle. Uh,
Mhm.
um, Fortunately, my contracts all say no refunds, and I've already done the work. It's pretty provable. So, but what I do now is I tell my clients in every meeting, are you happy? Yes or no? And we talk about their current state of mind regarding the work, and we make corrections as we go.
Okay.
I found that's essential, because otherwise people are really loath to tell you they're not happy with your work. They won't tell you that until they're really not happy.
Yeah, which is crazy to me, because it's like, okay, you're investing thousands and thousands, and it's not like it's even like 2-3 thousand, like you said, you're like 15, 10, 15, $20,000 here.
Yep.
And they're afraid to ask for what they want.
And then you find out what they're pissed off about, and it's just this, 3 paragraphs or something like that. But the project's already been soured. They're not interested anymore because the first 3 paragraphs in the book weren't what they wanted. I'm not kidding. Everything else is fine, but those 3 paragraphs. So that communication has to be maintained, and I'm become very careful about that, and very, very cognizant that they won't tell me unless I prompt them. Yeah. And even then, I have to push hard sometimes.
So, with that said, I guess, what kind of advice would you give to I mean, it doesn't matter really what industry, whether you're a writer, whether you're a coach, a consultant, an ad specialist, it doesn't really matter, because we all face that at some point. What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs working with clients that, might face something similar?
Make it clear first of all, make sure your contracts clearly state your refund policies and all your other policies. Absolutely. Make sure they sign it. I use DocuSign, which requires and I make it so they require an initial on every page. So there's no question that they had the opportunity to read it. That doesn't mean they read it. Right. but they sign it, they initial it. DocuSign enforces all that. It's totally legal, and it costs me, I think, $35 a month for an unlimited number of documents. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. And it automates that contract process. You make the contract once and you throw it in there. So one thing I'd say is find your tools. Whatever tools you need to make your business operate. DocuSign's one of them. For me, of course, the Microsoft Office suite is another one. Having a computer that's fast enough for me. I mean, for God's sakes, don't be working on a computer that's slowing you down. Don't be doing your whole business on your smartphone. I mean, get a real computer, Yeah.
I've had clients that operate that way. Yep.
Of course, because they're used to smartphones, especially younger generations. I was brought up on the desktop, so I got a big old desktop here with 4 monitors, and it's a gaming system. It's really fast, but it's an investment and it's tax deductible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many people forget that.
Yeah, it's a capital expense, so it has to be written off over several years. But it's the government is helping you pay for this stuff. Anything in your business, the government's helping you pay for. So for God's sakes, take advantage of it. You pay $100 for a course. Depending on what tax bracket you're in, the government might be paying for 40% of your course come tax time. So take courses and just keep a record of them.
Yeah, exactly. Keep your invoices. Courses, coaches. I'm a coach, and you also do coaching, correct?
I do writing coaching because some people have written their own manuscripts and they just need help getting it to that next level. So in that case, I charge by the hour. So it's a lot cheaper, and we just go through their manuscript until they're ready to go off on their own and fix it up. Usually I charge in blocks of hours or blocks of 20 hours, and usually 20 hours is enough, sometimes 2 of those. Yeah. And it's relatively inexpensive. It's relatively easy for me, and they get a lot of advice over that hour or over those hours. I mean, a lot.
Which if it's in their business, also tax deductible, right?
Yes.
So, and that I've learned because I have international clients, that isn't only in the US, that is in several other countries as well. So
you would have to depend. Yeah. And one of your tools as a writer is the language. So if you don't know grammar and spelling and style, you need to go to school. You cannot be a writer if you don't know those three things.
Mm-hmm.
Go to school, and there's all kinds of online courses, and practice until you do learn those things. You should know grammar and spelling and style inside and out. If you have to, grab the Chicago Manual of Style and read it cover to cover and learn how to use a comma. And if you're an entrepreneur, I darn well better not see you posting LinkedIn stuff and Facebook things with misspellings and bad grammar and stuff like that, because then you're not a real business person.
Yeah.
Especially if you're claiming to be a writer.
Oh, well, I guess more business for you, because hopefully other people see that as well. So I guess tell me, Richard, tell everybody else, if they were wanting to, connect with you, whether it's, to have a book written, to work with you as a coach, where would they connect with you?
Well, I have a website called thewritingking.com. That's THE writingking.com. And you can go there, and you can read my articles. I've got about 200, and you can fill out the contact form, and we can get together on Zoom and talk. You can also go to fictionmasterclass.com, and I actually sell courses on how to write there. So those are $20 each or some. I don't remember what amount I set them for, and you can buy them, and they get delivered electronically.
Fantastic.
So you can go there also. And I also have uniquesouls.com. I think it's uniquesouls.com, that has interviews with writers.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was a podcast. I've since given it up. Uniquesouls.com, yeah. And it's called Author Talk with Richard Lowe, and I just talk to writers. And if you need to learn how to write, these are writers who've actually managed to sell books. So
okay.
not just wannabes. They were actually writers who sell. So
fantastic.
Take out those.
Fantastic. And then I also have your Facebook link up on there. So if you didn't catch any of that and you just want to connect on Facebook to follow you or send you a message, we've got facebook.com/Richard Lowe Jr. Right?
That's the one. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining me and telling us just a little bit about your story today, Richard. And if anyone has trouble finding him, please feel free to reach out, and we will make sure to give you contact information. But we really appreciate everybody who's tuned in. And if you, again, have questions, please feel free to let us know. If you need help, in your business as a whole, again, my name is Lori. I'm a business success coach, and I would invite you to join our Facebook group, which is Build and Scale a Profitable Business, Work from Anywhere, for access to support of like-minded entrepreneurs all building their own businesses. So thank you so much again, Richard, and enjoy your day, everybody.
Have a great day. Thanks.